Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. A lonely boy has his life transformed when a zombie becomes the newest member of his family. Today we will recap the story of the 2006 movie Fido. A cloud of radiation has invaded planet Earth, and scientists have discovered that these space particles have caused the reanimation of human beings who had already died. The only need of these creatures is to devour the flesh of the living. This catastrophic event eventually caused a great battle, which became known as the Zombie War. During this dark period, mankind had to fight against these monsters in the struggle for survival. As the days passed, the humans were about to lose the war, but Dr. Ryan Holt Geiger, founder of the ZomCon company, discovered that if the zombie's brain was damaged, the creature would be destroyed and would never revive. With this discovery, the humans managed to win the war, and ZomCon built a security system, which consists of a fence surrounding the entire city, forming a protective steel perimeter. The same happened to other cities along that territory. However, even with the wall, the danger remained, as the radiation caused everyone who died to become a zombie. To solve this problem, Dr. Geiger has developed the domestication collar, which is able to curb these creatures' desire for human flesh. Furthermore, the collar makes the monster obedient like a puppy dog. However, if the red light goes out, the zombie will return to its natural instinct. If this happens, just contact ZomCon, or press the nearest emergency button, and officials will show up immediately to provide help. Thanks to ZomCon, everyone can become a productive member of society, even after they die. But for those who don't want that future and can afford it, there is the option of having a burial, from which you will never return. A few decades after the end of the zombie wars, during class, Miss Mills is visited by a special guest. Mr. Johnny Bottoms is a decorated hero who fought in the zombie wars and recently became the head of security for ZomCon in Willard City. He is also the father of the youngest student in the class, Cindy Bottoms. The man asks how many of those children have ever eliminated a zombie and notes that, besides his daughter, only 2 other kids have raised their hands. Johnny is happy to hear this, because his job in that town is to keep everyone safe so that no one has to face one of those monsters. After the speech, Miss Mills allows the children to ask the guest questions, and Timmy wonders if the people who were buried before the radiation cloud couldn't have been in their graves at that instant trying to get out. Johnny is staggered by the question and, to ease the situation, the teacher informs him that it is time for target practice. Timmy is quite skilled, but Cindy has more affinity with the rifle than most adults. While he is watching the girl, brothers Stan and Roy approach him and start teasing his classmate. They point their guns at Timmy, but Professor Mills immediately appears to stop them and states that they will be grounded. After school, the children go home. As he picks up his bicycle to leave, Timmy spots Roy and Stan stuck at the school board. Upon arriving in his neighborhood, the boy realizes that a new family is moving into the neighborhood. When he sees Mr. Bottoms approaching, he realizes that he is the one who will be living in that house, which used to belong to the Johnson family. He continues on his way, but before reaching home, he greets Mr. Theopolis, who is sunbathing in the garden, together with his zombie girlfriend. Timmy arrives in the garden of his house and leaves his bicycle on the grass, but Mrs. Henderson orders him to put it away properly. The old lady is the most hated person in the neighborhood. She is extremely grouchy and meddles in the lives of all the neighbors. In order to avoid conflict, Timmy decides to put his bicycle in the garage. His mother, Helen, is preparing some cookies and apple pie to welcome the new neighbors. The boy then informs her that the new head of security at ZomCon was moving to that neighborhood with his family. Upon hearing this, Helen finds the perfect opportunity to fulfill her greatest wish. When her husband, Bill, comes home from work, she invites him to a special dinner. Even Timmy had to get ready to be a part of this event. When Helen rings the bell, a zombie appears to serve the main course. The woman claims that they are now not the only family in the neighborhood without a zombie. Startled, Bill drops his martini glass on the floor. The peculiar butler then bends down to clean up the mess and ends up knocking over the roast. So as not to argue in front of his son, the man calls his wife into the kitchen to talk. He says that they cannot afford a zombie, as his salary is barely enough to pay for the funeral services he has contracted for when his family members pass away. In an attempt to manipulate him, Helen tells him that she met their new neighbors that day and discovered that Johnny is the new head of security at ZomCon. She goes on to say that the Bottoms family has moved into the former Johnson home and they have 6 zombies working for them. When Helen was asked how many zombies she had at home, she was embarrassed to tell the truth and lied, saying she had only 1 zombie. While his parents were arguing, Timmy orders the creature to pick up the roast he dropped on the floor. Upon seeing the monster, Bill decides to use the remote control to electrocute it, because it feels so good to subdue the zombies. The man agrees to keep that thing as long as it is chained up in the yard when he is not working. The next morning, the paperboy walks around delivering the day's paper to houses in the neighborhood. He throws the roll of paper at Theopolis' door and the man shows up with Tammy to pick it up. He then quickly closes the door, because the zombie responsible for delivering the milk has also decided to throw the bottle. While waiting for his father to play baseball, Timmy watches a commercial on TV. In it, ZomCon announces its newest invention, the zombie heart monitor. With this device, families will no longer be caught off guard with the passing of the elderly, because as soon as the heart stops, they will be restarted. Bill comes downstairs with his golf club and tries to hide from his son. The man knows that he has promised to help him practice, but intends to cancel his plans with Timmy to go play with his colleagues as usual. However, the boy spots his father sneaking out and asks if he can accompany him on the golf course. Bill says that this is not a good idea and leaves. This being the case, Timmy decides to go train alone outside while his mother goes on a visit to the Bottoms family. Helen told her husband that she had already met the new neighbors, but this was actually just a pretext to acquire a zombie. Timmy throws the ball at the wall and the object ends up under the lawnmower. Fido grabs the ball and throws it back to him, but the boy gets tired of playing alone and goes for a walk in the neighborhood. While looking through the bushes, he finds Roy and Stan. The boys had a shotgun in hand and were using it to shoot the zombies that were clearing the park. When he sees the boy, Stan runs after him and knocks him down. Roy then points his rifle in Timmy's direction. Just then, the zombie appears and throws the little bratty away. The two brothers escape and Timmy walks with his new friend back home. The boy then decides to give his zombie a name, and from that day on he calls him Fido. He throws his baseball away and asks Fido to fetch it. To the zombie's misfortune, the object ends up under the bench where Mrs. Henderson is sitting. The old lady was watching her neighbors when she noticed the zombie's presence and started beating him up with her walker. At that moment, the collar stops working and the creature recovers its instincts. Timmy hears his neighbors scream and runs to see what is happening. When he gets there, he finds Fido devouring Mrs. Henderson's arm. Seeing the boy, the monster walks towards him, but before he can touch Timmy, his collar works again and Fido hands him the ball back. However, Timmy does not pick up the ball and quickly returns home to clean up Fido. On the way, he meets Cindy. The young girl says that the boy should not walk with his zombie without a guide, as this is against the rules. Seconds later, Johnny shows up to take his daughter to the ballet and the girl asks Timmy to use his rope as a guide for the zombie. As he looks at the creature, the head of security at ZomCon realizes that zombie is covered in blood. However, Timmy tells him that he has been injured and Fido has soiled himself while helping him. To keep her father from pestering the boy with more questions, Cindy says she is late for her class, but before she leaves, she tells Timmy that she hates ballet. In the garage at home, the boy uses the hose to clean his friend. The young boy spots a seam in Fido's chest and discovers that he has died of a heart attack. His mother appears soon after and the monster is frightened. He knocks over a shelf and makes a mess of the place. Helen is afraid that her husband will want to return the creature when he sees this disaster, but Timmy says he will clean it up before his father arrives. That afternoon, Johnny and his wife, Dee Dee, pay a visit to the Robinson family home to discuss the disappearance of Mrs. Henderson. Timmy's parents claim that she may have been lost, since she is quite elderly. When the couple leaves, Timmy asks what happens in case a zombie has attacked Mrs. Henderson. Bill claims that the same thing that happened to the Johnson family would happen after their zombie devoured the Christmas carolers. After the incident, the whole family was expelled to the wilderness area, to the outside of the fence that protects the city from the zombies. Apparently, no one found Mrs. Henderson's body that day. During the night, the old woman gets up and begins to hunt her prey. One of the residents takes his dog to do his necessities in the park and becomes the first victim of the zombie old lady. While his parents were sleeping, Timmy gets up, grabs a shovel and pedals to the park where he last saw Mrs. Henderson's body. When he gets there, he finds only the arm of the woman, who appears right behind him to devour him. To defend himself, the boy attacks the zombie with a shovel. After a few blows, he manages to remove the old woman's head and bury it among the flowers in the garden, because the old lady always liked plants. After this, Timmy returns home and tries to sleep, but is stopped by Fido's screams. A storm is brewing outside and the boy goes outside to see what is happening. As he approaches the creature, he realizes that the collar has stopped working. Theopolis hears the zombie's screams and appears to help the boy. The man takes Timmy and Fido to his house and, with Tammy's help, traps the zombie so he can fix his collar. While the living are talking, Fido tries to get a cigarette and Timmy discovers that he was a smoker before he died. After fixing the device, Theopolis sends the boy and his zombie back home and asks Timmy not to comment to anyone about what happened. That Sunday, like all the others, the Robinsons attend a funeral and Helen uses a suit from her husband to dress Fido. The woman is beginning to grow attached to him, as is Timmy. The boy hates going to funerals because he usually doesn't know anyone there. However, his mother forces him to attend, because it is important to Bill. While the family heads to the funeral, Miss Mills and her boyfriend have a picnic in the park. She spots a little dog walking near the plants and goes over to talk to him. Just then, the couple is attacked by Peterson. After the priest's speech, the deceased's daughter takes the coffin on her head and places it inside the grave. Excited, Bill photographs the ceremony while everyone applauds. Only 10% of people are buried, the other 90% become zombies, but Bill is proud to say that he has made funeral plans for his entire family, so everyone could be buried when they die. However, Timmy states that he would rather become a zombie, and Helen supports her son, saying that she does not wish to be buried either. When the trio arrives home, they spot Mr. Henderson being taken away by the police. He was being accused of making an illegal burial. In the following days, the city turns into chaos. The zombies start attacking again, and the policemen try to control them, but end up being devoured as well. Outside their house, Timmy and Fido are washing the family car. Helen then brings her son a glass of juice, but upon seeing the zombie, decides to bring him a drink as well. As the woman approaches, Fido stands paralyzed looking at her, and the boy uses the hose to wet him. Then Timmy throws water on his mother, and the three of them begin to have fun together. Just then, Bill shows up and informs them that he is going to practice golf. Seeing Fido drinking juice, the man claims that zombies can't drink, but Helen corrects him, saying that they can eat and drink like everyone else, they just don't have to do it to live. Minutes later, Floyd shows up to take Bill away. The woman asks her husband to stay with the family that day, as she has a secret to tell him. However, the man ignores her and gets into the car on his way to the golf course. Meanwhile, the hunt for Mrs. Henderson continues, and a policeman informs Mr. Bottoms that he has found her walker. In addition, the officers arrested two boys who were hiding in the bushes shooting at the wild zombies. When the man goes to talk to them, Roy and Stan claim that Timmy's zombie tried to devour them and then went after Mrs. Henderson. However, Johnny doesn't believe this story and begins to think that those kids shot Mrs. Henderson and then hid her body. However, without any proof, the man is forced to release the boys. That afternoon, Timmy decides to take Fido for a hike in the mountains. They have fun together, until the brothers show up and point their guns at the pair. They tie the boy and the zombie to a tree and destroy Fido's collar. The plan is to get the zombie to attack Timmy and use this as a pretext to shoot him. Roy claims that he will eliminate the creature before it devours the boy, so Fido will take the blame for all the disaster caused in the town, and the Robinson family will be banished to the wilderness. However, when Stan releases the monster, Roy becomes nervous and fails to shoot the creature. Instead, he hits Fido in the chest. The bullet goes through the zombie's body and hits Stan, who ends up dying. Roy runs to hide in the nearby cabin, but Fido chases after him and devours him. Minutes later, he walks towards Timmy, and the boy believes he will be the next victim. However, contrary to all expectations, the zombie bends down and tries to untie him from the tree. At this point, the young boy understands that Fido presents no danger to him, but the creature is unable to free him. Timmy then asks Fido to clean himself up and go get help. However, before he goes, the zombie traps the deceased little Bratty inside the cabin so that he cannot attack Timmy when he turns into a zombie. The undead's next mission is to take Helen to her son. The woman is returning home when she comes across her zombie neighbor. Just then, Theopolis appears with a gun and tries to eliminate the creature. He fires a few shots, but is unable to put even one bullet into Peterson. Suddenly, the monster is hit with a clear shot to the head, which was fired by Cindy. When Helen finally enters her home, she finds Fido. The butler asks Mrs. Robinson to follow him, and the woman realizes that Timmy may be in trouble. They get into the car and Fido guides Helen to the place where the boy is being held. On the way, the woman realizes that the restraint collar is not working. She is initially frightened, but soon realizes that this zombie is not a threat. Meanwhile, Roy manages to get out of the cabin and walks towards Timmy. Just as the boy was about to be devoured, his mother appears and runs over the little monster. At that moment, Stan gets up and tries to attack him, but Fido grabs him and throws him away. To prevent the zombie boy from returning, Helen goes after him with her gun and eliminates him once and for all. Relieved that her son is safe, the woman hugs him, and then hugs Fido. After untying the boy, she places the body of the two brothers inside the log cabin and spreads fuel everywhere. After Helen burns the place down, the trio returns home. Meanwhile, a zombie finds Mrs. Henderson's body just when he is working in the garden. The next day, the Robinson family pays a visit to the Bottoms' home. While Timmy and Cindy play together, Dee Dee talks to Helen and asks if Bill is excited for the arrival of the new baby. However, Helen states that he hasn't even noticed that she is pregnant yet. Johnny takes Bill to see his war room and shows him the first zombie he killed. During the conversation, The man hints that the Robinson family zombie was responsible for attacking Mrs. Henderson and Timmy is covering for him. When they arrive home, Bill orders his son to go to his room and tries to talk to Helen about what Johnny had said. However, the woman is not interested in this matter and asks her husband to dance with her. Furious, Bill refuses, so she calls Fido to accompany her. Minutes later, Bill appears with the remote control of his collar and electrocutes the zombie. He then states that he is going to sleep. Later, before going to bed, Helen traps the creature in the garden and asks forgiveness for her husband's attitude. She says she wishes she could have met Fido before he died. That night, Johnny continues to investigate Mrs. Henderson's death and finds Timmy's baseball. In that instant, he is certain that the boy is involved in that case. The next morning, when the young boy wakes up and looks out the window, he notices that Fido has disappeared. The boy runs to his mother to ask about his friend's whereabouts and finds that the zombie has been taken by Zomcon. Johnny then goes to talk to the boy and states that he could have sent him and his family into the wilderness, but decided not to do so because Mr. and Mrs. Robinson have assured him that nothing of this sort will ever happen again. The next day, as he is driving his son to school, Bill says he has a present for him. Before Timmy gets out of the car, the man hands him a gun and instructs his son to use it only for self-defense. They then say goodbye and Bill goes to work. That night, Helen is determined to reveal her pregnancy to her husband. In doing so, Bill's only reaction is to say that, with his salary, he may not be able to afford another burial. The other day, in the morning, Timmy is awakened by a stone that has been thrown into his room through the window. On it was a note from Cindy saying that Fido is still alive. When they meet, the girl says she overheard her father talking on the phone and he said he took the zombie to work at the factory. Upon learning of this, Timmy asks Theopolis to help him get there. The man immediately accepts the request and drives the boy to the Zomcon headquarters. Once there, he informs the guard that he is taking his zombie to make some adjustments. Frank then allows them to enter. Since Timmy didn't show up for breakfast, his mother goes looking for him in his room and finds Cindy's note. Just then, she calls her husband and they both go after the boy. Meanwhile, Theopolis and Timmy are with Tammy in line at the Zomcon return department. The door to enter the factory is right behind the attendant, and Theopolis needs to find a distraction so that the boy can get in. After kissing Tammy, the man rips the collar off the zombie that is right in front of him and everyone goes into despair. The attendant starts shooting and hits Tammy, so Theopolis gets angry and attacks him. Meanwhile, Timmy takes the opportunity to enter the factory and look for Fido. Looking through the security cameras, Johnny spots the boy and goes to find him with the intention of getting rid of him. A few minutes later, Timmy finds his zombie, but Johnny shows up and stops the boy from coming down to save Fido. Seeing that his friend has been captured, the creature tries to free himself from the chains and has the idea of using the saw to get loose. Just then, Helen and her husband arrive at the Zomcon headquarters. Since they have no good reason to enter, Frank asks the couple to leave, but Helen decides to break in. Bill grabs his gun and runs after his son while his wife waits in the car in case Timmy shows up. Upon entering the factory, the man soon encounters Fido, who accompanies him in his search for Timmy. While everyone is fleeing that place in desperation, Johnny takes the boy to the company yard, where the gate separating the safe zone from the wild zone is. The man then traps Timmy outside the fence, along with the zombies, to be devoured. At this point, Bill and Fido appear. Bill orders Johnny to open the gate, but instead the security chief points another gun at him. Then Bill runs towards him and tries to disarm him. While they fight a hand-to-hand duel, Timmy manages to unlock the door and returns to the safe zone. The boy tries to help his father, but it is too late, as Johnny shoots him in the chest and eliminates him. At this point, Timmy deactivates Fido's collar and allows the creature to attack Mr. Bottoms. The zombies make it through the gate and into the courtyard. Timmy is again in danger, but his mother shows up to save him. She shoots the zombies in the head and manages to hold them off as they escape. As they leave the building, Theopolis shows up to give his neighbors a ride. All the guards unite to fight the invasion at Zomcon. Most of the staff has been annihilated and even the soldiers are not able to eliminate so many monsters. That Sunday, Timmy and his mother attend a special funeral. Helen decides to respect her husband's wishes and buries his head, as he would have liked it to be done. Weeks later, her baby is born and Dee Dee shows up with her family to celebrate. Timmy is surprised to discover that Johnny has become his daughter's pet zombie, and Cindy says that her father is much nicer that way. Fido is once again a member of that family and gets along very well with the newly arrived baby. Despite losing her husband, Helen feels happy because she knows she can count on her zombie butler to help her with whatever is needed. So, what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like it and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.